First of all, here's what happened. They loved each other deeply. Jonathan and David loved each other deeply. Let me read this passage of Scripture. I'll be in 1 Samuel a lot this morning. For our guests or people who don't have a Bible or are new to the faith, we'll project most of the Scriptures on the screen, as long as I communicated with Krista well. The first Scripture, it's in 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 1. After David had finished talking with Saul, Jonathan became one in spirit with David, and he loved him as himself. From that day, Saul kept David with him and did not let him return to his father's house. And Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. Okay, it's a little redundant, isn't it? Loved him as himself. Jonathan took off his robe he was wearing and gave it to David along with his tunic and even his sword, his bow, and his belts. You have to understand, in this day and age, there's something called a covenant, which was very, very integral to the way society functioned at that. Let me just read you an excerpt of what a covenant is. The making of a covenant was a serious business. It was the strongest bond known to men and had both business and personal applications and extended even to the descendants of the two parties involved. A covenant was typically solemnized by great ceremony and ritual, some of which are mentioned in this passage. You see, it was a ritual when you made a covenant with somebody to take off your coat and your tunic and give it to the other person saying, we are one. You are part of my family. You are going to take care of all of that I have, and I am going to take care of all that you have. We are family. We are one. So this was very, very important in this day and age because they live different. It's not like today, you understand, where you know, if you don't like somebody in L.A., you can move around the corner and you'll never bump into each other again. Okay? That's L.A. When I graduated, my graduating class was 865. That was just my class, you know, the ones I graduated with. I hardly ever bump into these people. 865 people, and I hardly ever bump into any of them. Because in L.A., you know, you could just disappear. Well, back in this day and age, you could not disappear. I mean, you could, but it wasn't good if you did. You understand? So you are near and with each other all the time. You just could not leave and disappear. So the thing that we find about Jonathan and David, about this friendship, is they really began to love each other more than their families, more than their kingdoms, which is very important, and even in a different way, more than women. They wanted to be together. They were friends. They loved each other as themselves. They were fond of each other, and they were one in spirit. This sounds pretty intimate, doesn't it? It was. It was an amazing thing. You know, my best friend and I, Rich, I can really, vouch for this. You know, I've had a lot of stuff in my life happen the last 20 years. You know, one of the most amazing things recently, I started at the end of last year going to a counselor. You know, we all need counseling periodically. I needed some counseling. But I didn't have enough money to pay for counseling. It can be expensive, can't it? So he knew that. And so you know what he started doing? Paying for my counseling. Isn't that wonderful? Just started sending a check in to me. I didn't ask. He just said, pay for your counseling. Go to counseling. You need help. Here's my best friend. He knew I needed help, so he was willing to pay for it. But you see, that's the aspect of friendship. You know, he's struggling with the economy too, right? We all are. Some of us are struggling better than others. Some of us planned a little bit better than others. But nevertheless, it's affected everybody to one level or another, whether it's yourself or a friend. But as a friend, somebody who cared deeply about me, and I him, he sacrificed. He's got 3 kids and a wife. And they've all, as a family, decided to sacrifice for me and my family. See, that is where friendship and peer mentoring begins to bring you. And it's an amazing thing, amen? Number 2, First, we love each other deeply. This is peer mentoring. The second part of it is you're loyal to each other. Loyal to each other, even to in ways that might seem a bit inappropriate or extreme. You know, you could see in Jonathan and David's life, they warned each other. They stuck up for each other. They made plans to help each other. They went to each other. And Jonathan's quoted here saying this. I kind of fudged it a little bit, you know, just to make it sense. It's where he said, whatever you want me to do to help, I'm there. This is Jonathan now speaking to David. Because you remember, David was the one running. Jonathan was in a little bit better position. Let me read the scripture. It's in 1 Samuel 19, verse 1, that exemplifies, again, Jonathan and David's relationship and loyalty to each other. Saul told his son Jonathan and all the attendants to kill David. The king, Dad, has decided he's going to kill David, Jonathan's best friend. How would you react if you were in a similar setting? Maybe for you it's not killing, but maybe for it's you, I don't like that person you're hanging out with. You need to stop it. Now, I'm not talking about being rebellious against parents, okay? But you understand, hopefully. If not, you know, say Ramon told you to do it, okay? Saul told his son Jonathan and all his attendants to kill David. But Jonathan was very fond of David and warned him, my father Saul is looking for a chance to kill you. Be on your guard tomorrow morning. Go into hiding and stay there. I will go out and stand with my father in the field where you are. I'll speak to him about you and tell you what I find out. Jonathan spoke well of David to Saul, his father, and said to him, let not the king do wrong to his servant David. He has not wronged you, and what he has done has benefited you greatly. He took his life in the hands when he killed the Philistine. That's Goliath, if you remember the story. The Lord won a great victory for all Israel, and you saw it and were glad. Why then would you do wrong to an innocent man like David by killing him for no reason? Saul listened to Jonathan and took this oath. As surely as the Lord lives, David will not be put to death, which was a lie, if you just keep reading the rest of the book. So Jonathan called David and told him the whole conversation. He brought him to Saul, and David was with Saul as before. Once more, war broke out, and David went out and fought the Philistine. He struck them with such force that they fled before him. You see, they were loyal to each other. When you have a deep friendship, you are loyal to each other in ways that are hard sometimes, in ways that are struggles sometimes, in ways that might not benefit you personally. Did this benefit Jonathan really, practically, in any way? No. Saul, his father, even tossed a sword at Jonathan later on to kill him because he was sticking up for David. So loyalty is a very, very important piece of the mentoring and peer mentoring relationship. You guys will share and gals will share things with each other that you don't want it shared with anyone else. And you have to hold that thing tight and be there for that person when they're in that point and place where they need that help. Amen? You following me?